Hi, my name is Brendan Austin. Today I'm going to be showing you a brief demo of some of the things that we've created for the hospitality industry. Today we're going to be stepping through a day in the life of a general manager, an RVP, and a financial analyst, and we'll be using the IBM Cognos toolset to do so. We're going to start off as a general manager, and we're looking right now at the general manager dashboard that we've created. This is a web-based tool that the GM can come to and look to see how his hotel is performing against budget, against forecast, and scroll back and forth between years if he wants to, and drill in on some data if he wants to. Then we're going to jump in and actually modify the forecast directly from the screen. So first of all, at the top, we've got a slider bar where the GM can actually go back in time and look at data on this page for last year if he wants to. So when I do that, and I move it back to 2014, you'll notice all my graphs and all of my data on the page changed automatically for that date. I'm going to move it back to 2015 now. We're looking to see how we're trending to target versus budget. Here I can see my gross operating profit in total for my hotel, my occupancy percentage, actual to budget, my rates per month. The color indicator indicates whether it's over target or over budget or under budget. And then down here I've got my overhead broken into 3 separate categories. Here I can start drilling down on that data if I want to by simply clicking on one of the subtotals, and the system will start drilling down and giving me the detail under that for actual versus budget. I can also come up here and run additional reports that I've got on my landing page here. For instance, let's say I want additional star detail for my hotel. I'm just going to come here and click the star detail report, and this report launches based upon the selections in my first screen, and it's going to give me additional information about my hotel from the star data that I've collected over the year. So here I can look at my occupancy versus my comps over time. I can look at my average rate versus the comps, my REVPAR, and then I can look at the entire year as far as numerical values. And I can actually, if I want to, start comparing my hotel with other hotels in the area or other hotels that are outside my region if I want to, and change the year as well. So I can drill in and see that data that is brought in on a monthly basis for star right here on this web page. I'm going to come back to my dashboard now, and I want to come in and actually start updating my forecast for the month. So I'm going to come down to the bottom of the screen, and down here I've got a link to my forecasting system. Right here on the screen I can look and see that where my hotel is in the process as far as the forecast this goes this month. I can see with the orange button next to it, that tells me that my forecast is actually in process. I've actually opened the forecast at this point. I've started making some changes, and anybody that is reviewing the forecast process at the end of the month or at the end of the period can see that I have actually started the process. They can see that status. I can see here also that the state is called reserved, which means that somebody has taken ownership of it, somebody started maintaining it. Over here I can see when I do submit my forecast who it would go to review under. I can see the last time that I actually saved the data in the system, and if I want to put any comments associated with my forecast, I can actually attach those to the process itself. That way, if my RVP is wondering why I haven't submitted my forecast, he could look at this comment and see that I'm waiting on an elevator repair estimate from a particular vendor before I actually submit my forecast. So it would save some phone calls or emails back and forth. You can attach those comments, and I can actually put an attachment to that comment as well. So we can bring in Excel sheets, PDFs, web links, etc. So I'm going to go ahead at this point and actually open up my forecast template by clicking on this link, I'm going to expand my window here. And as the system's opening up, you'll notice when this comes up, it's laid out in tabs, and within each tab there are rows and columns. Keep in mind that anything that is on these tabs is completely customizable. So we can build your templates or your reports any way you need to run your business. Okay, whatever format you want. These are authored actually in Excel in the back end, so they're very easy to update and maintain. And we can come right in here and update that data. At this point, I'm on my daily revenue tab of my forecast. And I want to come in and actually update my May daily room revenue. This has been preloaded for me from a ETL job behind the scenes that has brought in my forecasted room revenue. And then I can come in and update that right here on the screen. Security wise, I have the ability to change anything that's got a white background on this template. Anything with a gray background or a blue background indicates that it's a calculated value and it's there for informational purposes. For instance, this first column here shows me the number of rooms that I sold last year for the equivalent day of May 1st. The second column, which has a white background, is the number of rooms that I'm saying that I'm actually going to forecast for that day for transient. And I've got the same two columns for group. Then the system's calculating my total rooms sold. It's automatically calculating my occupancy percentage based upon the number of rooms in my hotel that are available for that day. We do the same thing for rates. So we should tell you what the last year's transient rate was for that day. We give you the opportunity to key in or update the transient rate for this year, for this current day, and so on. Then the system comes over to the right and calculates a total room revenue for last year versus this year. So to update this data, I can simply key in the data right here. I can copy and paste it from Excel onto the sheet. I have several different options. So if I want to update this one for 87 transient rooms for May 1st and 7 group rooms, $84.67 is a good transient rate. I'm going to say an $81 group rate over here. Okay. And the system is going to automatically recalculate a bunch of this information based upon data entry that I've done. You'll notice a bunch of this has turned blue automatically. The system's telling you everything that it's changed or recalculated based upon the data that you've entered within this session. So as you can see, I've changed my occupancy percentage. I've got a new blended rate for the day. I've changed my total room revenue. And if I scroll down to the monthly totals, it's actually changed my entire month of May as well. Okay, so now for the month of May. If I go ahead and submit my forecast as is, I'm at 54.1% total month occupancy. Okay, now some people decide they don't want to do revenue on a daily basis, and that's fine. We've actually built the model to where there's two different ways to do it. We can either turn on or turn off the daily revenue piece for certain hotels, or we can give the hotel the option on a monthly basis to whether they want to forecast on a daily basis or a monthly basis. If they do want to go to a monthly basis, they simply come to this monthly revenue tab, and they can actually come in and do their forecast by simply keying in the occupancy percentage for the month and the average blended rate for the month, and the system will calculate the total rooms sold, total room revenue, and go ahead and plug that into the revenue forecast for the hotel. Okay. We can also do that on a budgeted basis as well. Even if the hotel is not using the monthly revenue budget and forecast, the data is still rolled up and displayed on this tab for informational purposes. So here I can see that what I'm doing on a monthly basis for the entire year. I can see what I'm doing against budget. I can see what I did last year, month by month, and I'm creating a variance to budget and a variance to last year as well. Okay. Again, anything that I'm doing as far as data entry to my forecast or my budget, anything that I'm changing or impacting is being highlighted in blue automatically. Okay, and that's not just for the revenue side. This model has a lot of expenses that are built into it as well that are based on occupied rooms. And we'll see in a minute when we go over to the expense side, because I've changed the number of occupied rooms for May, the expenses that are also driven by occupied rooms have increased as well. Okay, so now I'm going to jump to this chart tab. It shows you just a different view of some of the data. Here we're looking at OCC% versus ADR, forecast budget versus last year. And the system has the ability to do some dynamic charting. And you can change up the charts any way you want to. Make them line charts, etc. You can do that on the fly. So you've got the ability to create some visualizations, however you like to see that data. So now we're going to jump over to the expense side of the house. And the way that this model was built is each department would have its own tab. Those tabs can then be locked down via security, so that if you come in, you've got a rooms manager or a GM, they would only see the rooms department. If you have a housekeeping manager, they would only see the housekeeping tab, etc. Down as rows, we've got the individual accounts that the department is responsible for, and then the columns indicate the months that we're forecasting, and within that we've got the forecast, the budget, and the last year. Any month that is passed already has been replaced with actuals in this model. So if I look at the forecast for February right now, it would actually show actual numbers in that forecast column. Okay. Now, you notice some of these numbers are in blue already, and these are the ones that were actually driven by occupied rooms. You notice next to the account description, we've listed what the driver is for that account. There's several different ways to do this, several different ways to display it. Some people want to have that driver in a separate field next to the account number and have it be selectable by the forecaster, and we can do that as well. In this case, we've got a maids line item for our rooms department. It's highlighted in blue, $18,129. That's based on that $3.12 rate times the number of rooms occupied for the month. Comes to $18,129. I can see here right next to it that I had actually budgeted a rate of $3 per month. And last year I was running $3.12. And in April I came in at actuals at $2.85. So I may want to adjust my forecast down if I'm actually running at $2.85 for the past month. And I can actually come over here and I can see that March forecasted I was at $3.07. So maybe I know that my maids expense isn't going to be quite as high as what I originally budgeted, and I'm going to come over here and adjust it. So I'm going to say 285, and I'm going to hit enter. You notice the system highlights it in green first, then when it's recalculated, it puts it in blue. It's now recalculated that dollar amount to $16,537. If I scroll down to the bottom, I'd see the new total for my rooms department. But at this point, I want to add a comment to that line item so that anybody that's reviewing my forecast will know why I changed a number, why I overwrote a number, or maybe I just want to, for my own purposes, make a notation so that when I come back to my forecast next month, I know why I made a change. Just like in Excel, I can comment any cell within my forecast or my budget by simply right-clicking on the cell, going to add comment, and actually typing in the comment. So I'm going to put in here adjusted for last month actual. And when I hit OK, you notice a red hashtag is included on the corner, indicating that that cell has a comment. So anybody that's looking at my forecast or a forecast that mine rolls up to, so for instance, when the regional vice president looks at the entire North region, which my hotel rolls up to in the model, they will see that red hashtag on that account. And when they drill on that, they can actually see that the manager of the Grafton Hotel indicated why that number was changed at that point. That comment will stay with the forecast until they're actually deleted, but they will stay forever until they're deleted and purged from the system. Okay, now I'm going to jump over to the monthly forecast tab, which is kind of a summary of all of the general ledger accounts that the hotel is responsible for. And so over in the left-hand column, I've got the current month that I'm forecasting, and then I've got actuals for January through April behind it. And then I've got my total year outlook on the very right-hand side. Now, I can drill down on any one of these accounts if I want to and actually get to the individual account line items if I wanted to. But what I wanted to show you is if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, I can actually get down to a net income total within my forecast. And you can see that right now, if I submitted my forecast as is, I'd be at a $1.27 million net income for the month of May. Okay. I had budgeted only $800,000 for the month of May. So I'm actually doing pretty well, or I'm projecting to do pretty well, at least against budget for the month of May. Okay, now that I've put some forecast and budget in, I'm curious to know what I could do potentially to maybe increase my net income for the month. And let's say I'm just curious to know, what if I sold one more transient room for the month of May, every day in the month of May? How would that impact my net income? And not only is it going to change my net income, my revenue, but it's also going to change my expenses, because remember, I've got some expenses that are driven by CPOR. Okay, and I need those to adjust automatically as well. What I can do is create what's called a sandbox in the system. And the sandbox allows me to copy the data that I put in there right now off to another workspace that I can then manipulate and change up and not impact the forecast that I've already saved. And I can decide in the end which one of the various versions of the forecast that I actually want to submit to my manager. Okay. To do so, what I'm going to come up and do is click Create Sandbox. And I'm going to come in here and create a sandbox called Adjust 2016 Transient Rooms. Click OK. When I do so, it tells me that I'm within that sandbox. This will be displayed on every one of the tabs within my forecast templates or my budget templates. And so now I'm going to come back to my daily revenue. And I'm going to come down to my monthly total for transient rooms for May. This 2,852 rooms sold. And I could come through here day by day and change each room, each daily transient room total by one. Or I could come in right here and I could right click on this total and do what's called a data spread, and which is a built-in adjustment that comes with the product. I can come in and adjust this. And I'm going to say I want to do a repeat leaves, and I want to add 1 to all populated days. So I'm going to add one more room to each day in the month, and I'm going to click apply. and the system's figured that out for me. You'll notice again it highlighted everything in blue. So if I sold one more room, transient room for each day in May, I'd have 2,883 rooms for the month of May. If I scroll over to the right, that brings my total room revenue to $299,364 for the month of May. And so now if I jump up back to monthly forecast, I can see what that would do to my net income. So I went up to 1275, 832, and I can jump back to my default and I can look and see what my original was. Okay, so not a huge amount of net income difference because a lot of my expenses are driven off of occupied rooms. Okay, so at this point I can decide which one of those two forecasts I actually want to submit as final. I'm going to go ahead and go with my original, which is my default. So I'm going to go ahead and save it again just to make sure. You'll notice up at the top in the toolbar, it says that it's reserved still. If I click on this icon right here, submit, this will actually submit it to my manager for approval. You'll notice at this point, all of the backgrounds went to gray. So if I went back to any one of these, this is actually all been locked out at this point. The gray indicates that I can no longer make any more changes to my forecast. It also tells me at the top that it's locked, indicating that that forecast cannot be changed until my manager either rejects it and sends it back, or the whole process starts over again next month. Okay, so I'm going to come back here now to my dashboard, and this is where we were looking at before. And I'm going to refresh this icon. It now tells me that my hotel is locked. Any regional vice president or anybody corporate now would see that the Grafton Hotel is now locked. It's in a green status. They've actually updated their forecast and it's ready to go. So now we're going to jump in as a regional vice president. We're actually going to use the one of the mobile tools, show you what this would look like on the iPad as regional vice president reviewing a budget. At this point, I'm coming in at my regional vice president dashboard, and I'm on my iPad now. You'll notice all of the information is in different quadrants on the sheet. These are called widgets. These widgets can be customized to be anything I want them to be, filtered any data that I want, and saved as a user-specific web page or dashboard. You notice up on the right-hand side, I've got a slider bar for the year. When I do change that to 2015, it will change all of the widgets on the page to look at 2015 data. I can slide it back to 2014 and it will do the same. But here the RVP is looking at some key statistics for not only his region but the other regions, and comparing his region, the North region, with the others. And as the RVP, I can come in here and start drilling down on different information within the report. If I want to look at total overhead expenses but for just my region, I can click on the North region and drill down. And what it'll do is it'll expand out those hotels within the North region and not only change that report, but all the other reports on the screen as well. And here I can see that in this middle chart, my average daily rate for one particular hotel is way below the median for quarter 3. And I'm kind of concerned about that. And maybe I want to get some additional detail about this particular hotel that's low in quarter 3. Right here from the screen, I can click this little mark button, and I can actually draw and highlight what I'm concerned about, and I can say look into right with my finger, and then I can click share, and then I can email not only a link to this particular page but also a screenshot of what I highlighted, and I can email this to anybody that I want to within the organization. When they click on that link, that dashboard will pop up automatically, and they'll be able to see this information, and they can actually look at exactly what the RVP is looking at. And it saves a lot of time going back and forth, and they see a picture exactly what you were looking at the time. So at this point, we're going to jump back to our general manager dashboard that we were looking at before, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to make adjustments to the dashboard and customize it for the GM. And we're going to create a new report and actually bring that onto the dashboard itself. So at this point, I'm back at my general manager dashboard. And I want to add some additional information to my dashboard that I want to monitor kind of on a daily basis, or at least every time I come to the dashboard. I want to compare my guest breakfast account to the other hotels in my region. And I want to see what they're forecasting over a period of time. My management has been really concerned about the guest breakfast account and has questioned a lot of the hotels in my region about the guest breakfast expenses, and I just want to see kind of how I'm falling in line with the rest of the hotels, and I want to see that on this landing page. I can very easily change that myself without having to call IT or have a developer come in and do any of that information by simply coming to my landing page. And I'm going to go back and click on this home button, and I'm going to go to this home page, and over on the right hand side I'm going to launch a tool called Cognos Workspace Advanced, which allows me to go into the data and create a new report on the fly. It's going to come up. I'm going to create a new page. Okay, create new. I'm going to use this hospitality package that I've got. I'm going to create what's called a crosstab report. The crosstab report allows me to go into the cube behind the scenes and actually pull that data in. So I know that my data sits in the forecast cube. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say which years I want to include. So I'm going to include 2015 on my report. I'm going to come back to my years, pick which scenario, which version I want to look at, and I only care about forecast. So I'm going to include forecast. And in my months, I'm going to come in here and pick which months I want to include. So what I'm really concerned with at this point is the total year, January, February, and March. And I'm going to drag that across, and I want to see those as columns. So I'm going to drop them in the column section. And then I'm going to shrink this down. I'm going to come back to accounts. And I know that my guest breakfast account is in my rooms department. So I'm going to come down to my rooms summary and start drilling down. It's within rooms profit, rooms department expenses. Move this over just a little bit. Other expenses. And right here is my guest breakfast account. So I'm going to click and drag and drop that to my report. I'm going to come back up here and shrink down my accounts. I'm going to go pick the properties that I want to include. So I want to drill down on the north region and pick the hotels that I want to include on my report. I'm going to make those be rows. So I'm going to drag those over to the rows section. Take down my properties. And last, I need to say what I'm going to show as a measure in my report. Well, all that I really care is the CPOR rate on this report. So I'm going to click and drag and drop that over here. And what it's going to do is it's query the database for those hotels for the time period that I'm asking for, and it's going to give me that data. As you can see here, these hotels actually haven't done any forecast for January, February, or March yet. So I can see very quickly how my hotel is comparing with the others. I'm now going to save this report so that I can then add it to my dashboard, and I'm going to save it right here. Call it guest breakfast by hotel. Save. And I'm going to come back now and close this. And I'm going to go back to my dashboard for the general manager. And it's going to go ahead and reload it as I had saved it the last time. Each one of these boxes are called widgets on my dashboard, and I can change any one of these widgets as I want to. I can make my dashboard specific to my username if I want to. So now at this point, I'm going to come over and I'm going to include that additional information on this screen to the right. So if I scroll to the right hand side of the screen, I get this little bar over to the right, which I can then come in and add additional widgets that have been created directly to my dashboard. And I save that under public folders. And I come down to my package that I attached it to. And it is in the hospitality. And it's guest breakfast by hotel. And I'm going to click and drag and drop that onto my dashboard here. So it's going to go ahead and add that, and then I can reposition this any way I want to. Okay, so I can click and drag and move it around. I'll drop it down here. Move it down just a little bit more, etc. So I can resize it. I can reposition the other widgets if I want to. But this can now become my dashboard. Okay, let's say for instance I don't like this graph. Okay, I don't like being a bar graph. I can actually click on any one of these widgets and click this do more button. That will actually take that graph into the tool it was authored from, and then I can then make any changes to that graph that I want to, again specific to my user ID. I'm not going to be changing anybody else's charts or graphs based upon these little changes that I'm going to make. It's only impacting my dashboard as I see it. Okay, so from this screen I could go in and change this actual report, the way it's displayed, etc. And then go back and save that to my dashboard as well. Or I can just hit cancel and it will take me back to my dashboard as it was. And I'm going to go ahead and save at this point so that tomorrow when I come back in, my dashboard is just as it is. Okay. Now we're going to go back in as a financial analyst to the TM1 product, and we're going to do some slicing and dicing of the data, some top-end push-down allocations to the data, where we're going to adjust some of the data, etc. So we're going to jump back over to the back end now, using the Excel add-in now. At this point, we're in the TM1 Excel add-in directly as a financial analyst. So this is something that either a power user or an administrator would see. When they do have the Excel add-in installed, you'll see this TM1 menu that is added to the Excel session. And I can come to this Explore button and start looking at the items that I can actually interact with on the server, things that I have security access to see. And we're going to jump into what's called the cube viewer, and we're going to jump over to this forecast cube. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to slice and dice this data and manipulate the data and create some ad hoc reports. So here we're looking at the cube viewer for the forecast cube. And if you think of what a cube is, it's basically a huge pivot table. So we've summarized the data by what are called dimensions. And the dimensions in this case within this cube are stored in these blue boxes. And if I hover over the blue box, it tells me what those dimensions are. So I've got a scenario or a version, I've got my properties, I've got a year, I've got months and a measure, and then I've got my whole account hierarchy that I can see, my whole entire chart of accounts. And let's say I want to go in on any particular day and I want to figure out what the net income is for a forecast versus budget over the next year for all the properties within my organization. And I want to create a quick ad hoc report. I want to spit it off to Excel, and I want it in Excel to be interactive so that if the data does change, I won't have to redo that Excel sheet again and again and again. So I'm going to make it be linked back to the cube behind the scenes. So I can very easily do that directly from this screen. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and pick which accounts I want to see in my analysis. So here I'm really just concerned with net income. I'm going to select net income, and I'm going to drag that and drop it right on top of where the property is. And what that does is it swaps those two. So I want my properties to be my rows. Okay. So next I'm going to come into properties and I'm going to pick the hotels that I actually want to see. So I'm going to come in, I want everything for LPA lodging, and I want everything down at just the lowest level hotel. I don't care about the regional breakups or the vice president level. So I'm going to go down and filter by level 0, which automatically gets me down to the hotel. I'm going to go ahead and recalculate and see what I've got right now. So you can see very quickly I'm changing up this report without a whole lot of effort here. Okay, so now I want the monthly breakout, but I want it by forecast and budget, and right now I'm looking at actuals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come and bring this scenario and I'm going to drop it right between my month and my measure, and then I'm going to pick forecast and budget, because that's all that I really care about. I'm going to recalculate and see what I've got. Okay, system take just a minute to recalculate it. It'll show me all my data. There we go. Now you can see I haven't done a whole lot of budgets yet for 2014, but I did say I wanted 2015. So I'm going to change the year up here to the top, 2015, and we'll probably see more data now. There we go. And maybe I want to just, I just care about the quarters at this point too. So I've changed up my analysis just a little bit. So I'm going to come back into days, and I'm going to bring in the total year and the 4 quarters only. Okay. There we go. And now let's say I want all the forecasts together and all the budgets together. Okay. I don't have to start over from scratch. I simply just switch these two, the ordering of these two, recalculate, and now it does all forecast for time periods and then all budget. If I want to switch it back, switch them back, do that. Now if I want to take this to Excel and create a quick Excel report out of it, I can come up here and click on one of these buttons up top. The first one I'm going to do is this called the slice. That basically takes everything that's in that Cube Viewer screen, brings it in, makes it an Excel worksheet, and you'll notice it's actually created formulas. Those formulas are the live link back to the cube. So as long as this worksheet is saved somewhere, if I reopen it again tomorrow or next week or next month, and that data has changed, you'll notice the data change in the spreadsheet as well, because it is that live link. It also means that I can change this data that I'm pulling at any point in time too. So let's say I originally created this report for 15, but I want to go back and say what was it in 13, and click OK and recalculate, and the system will go retrieve all that data, bring it back, and display it right in my Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so which means that you can create these Excel worksheets as templates, and you can have each one of your properties come in, change the property that they want to see, change the time description, and recalculate that sheet and see one single version of the truth for these reports. So for instance, your income statement package, you can create an income statement package, put the property selection at the top, each property manager or our VP can come in and see their properties, recalculate it, and they're seeing the same template across the organization for every hotel. It's just simply populated with their information. Okay, so that was a slice. I can also create what's called an active form. So if I come back to my cube viewer here, scroll down to the bottom, come back to my cube viewer, and I can create what's called an active form this time. What an active form gives you the ability to do is to drill down. Okay, so I can apply formatting. I can change the selections that I've got, etc. So I'm going to come back down here and do this edit subset, and I'm going to pick that I want to see total LPA lodging this time, and we'll click OK, and then I'm going to rebuild this active form. Okay, now at this point, move some of these out a little bit. I can start drilling down on the hierarchy. Okay, so if I had brought accounts over as my rows, I could drill down on the account hierarchy, etc. Again, this is a template. All these formulas are linked back to the cube behind the scenes and will change as the data changes as well. Okay, so I wanted to give you a couple examples of some reports that you can create using the same method. Here we've created a set of financial statements where the hotel would actually open up this template. They would pick their location. So I'm the manager of the Grafton Hotel. My security actually allows me to see everybody if I wanted to for comparison, but I'm going to come into the Grafton Hotel. I'm going to click Update. It will page through each one of the tabs in my workbook. So I'm going to come over to Operating Summary. It's done, and it's brought back that data. You notice again, I see the DBRW formulas. I can change the period that I'm pulling, etc. I've created some other charts, etc. So within this add-in, any Excel charting, graphing, filtering capability that you want to use can be utilized. At this point, it's an Excel worksheet. And these formulas are what the link is back to the Team 1 cube behind the scenes. So you can create any type of Excel formulas, workbooks, charts that you want to, and make that be your template within your organization. And that's what a lot of our clients do. I'm going to show you another example of a little bit different take on the data. This is some revenue management information that we brought in. And here we've brought in some data for revenue managers. And we're actually bringing in data not only from our actuals, but we're bringing in star data, we're bringing in rate shop data, and we're bringing in a lot of the other data from our competitors. And we're showing our reservations captured by day. We're showing what the pickup is as of today for outlooking based upon what rates we're actually advertising in the market. We're showing what our occupancy percentage is. So this allows the revenue manager to come in here and see which days we may need to be adjusting our rates for. We also have a model in here that utilizes the SPSS modeler function within Cognos, which actually goes in and predicts what the optimal rate should be based upon different factors. And what we've factored in there is weather information, what events are going on in the city, what our historical occupancy percentage and rates have been as compared to our competitors over the last 4 years. And it comes back and it adjusts what the rate should be, and it gives this as a suggestion. So that SPSS modeler brings back in that rate and shows that to the revenue manager, and the revenue manager can then update that rate if he chooses to do so. So for instance, this is coming in as 837. Maybe I want to do 845. And I can come over in here and put adjusted per Roy. Okay. So I just wrote back that comment back to my system so that if anybody else brings up this location tomorrow or later today or what have you, they can see that I actually overwrote the rate that my model was actually suggesting to this new rate, and it's associated comments with it. So you can see down below we're losing some occupancy or some reservations here because our rate is too high. We're advertising a rate of 1136, whereas our competitors are a little bit lower. So SPSS is suggesting we would lower our rate to 1099 and hopefully gain back some of that market share that we're losing. Okay, so just a little bit different flavor on data. It's not just financial data; it's more revenue based, but just some additional things that you can do with these tools once we've got it. We've also got a tab on here that stores all of the event information for each hotel in the area, and displays what the event days are, what the projected occupancy or the load on the hotel would be, how many people are going to attend the event, and any additional information about that event that may impact the occupancy forecast for that day. Okay, so at this point I'm going to jump back and show you some of the advanced administration back-end pieces to the system. So TM1 behind the scenes is tracking all changes that are done as far as data entry goes. Okay, auditors love this because you can go in and see at any point in time any numbers that have been changed by a user physically. And not only can you see them, you can actually back those transactions out either individually or in whole without going to a backup, without involving IT. The TM1 administrator can simply go in and back those transactions out. So to do so, what I'm going to do is go up to my server and I'm going to right click and say view transaction log. And what I'm curious to know is what changes have been made to my daily revenue over the last few days. So I'm going to come into my cube called daily revenue and I'm going to click OK. I could narrow it down to a particular property if I wanted to, or a particular day. I'm just curious to know what's been put in. I'm going to edit the query and go back a few more days, and we'll go back here to days ago. Okay, and here we'll see that there's been some information that has been keyed in. And this user actually came in and changed this value from 81 to 87 on this property for 2015 for transient rooms for May 1st. Okay. Now, as an administrator, I can actually come in here and change this. I can actually back it out if I want to. So let's say the user calls you up and says, "Oh man, I made all these changes. Is there any way to back them out and just start over?" Well, sure. You select the transactions. You could select them all. You could unselect them, or just change one. You click back out, and what the system actually does is it creates an offsetting transaction to the original. So for an auditing perspective, it not only shows you how it went in originally, but it shows you that the administrator came in and backed that original back out. So I went from 81 to 87. When I backed it out, I went from 87 back to 81. So that person who was looking at their forecast will actually now see the 81 rooms for May 1st for transient for their hotel automatically. They didn't have to go back in and actually physically change their forecast. You actually did that for them. Okay. So it's a neat feature that comes straight with the tool, the auditing function. Now let's say you finish your forecast for the period, and just like always, corporate wants to make some changes. Okay. You have two options. One, you could contact all your hotels, reject all of your property forecast templates. You could then tell them what changes they need to make, send it back, and then come back and say, okay, let's put this back, let's make this change, let's re-roll it up, let's reapprove everything. I don't necessarily want to do that. Okay. At this point, the forecast has been approved by all the regional vice presidents, and corporate is just making this blanket change for a couple of accounts, and they're going to push that back down and then tell the general managers and the regional VPs that they've made the change, and then they can just go in and look and see what the impact is. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the time period that I actually want to look at. And so we're going to go to this May 2015. We had forecasted a 17,000 total building repair and maintenance expense for the month of May. And let's say that corporate wants to come in and they want to add $5,000 to every one of the hotels to repairs and maintenance for a project that we said corporate wide has to be done at every hotel. Okay, for some improvement that we just said has to be done at every hotel. Well, I could go through here and add $5,000 to each one of these, or I could use that same data spreading technique that we showed you on the daily revenue tab by simply clicking on the total. So I'm going to come to 17,030, do what's called a data spread, and this time I'm going to use the repeat leaves, and I'm going to do a $5,000 on all leaf cells, and I'm going to click add. And what it's done is it's changed each one of the totals and added an additional $5,000 to each property. And so now I'm at a $247,000 total repair and maintenance for the month of May. So at any point in time, now any of these hotels can go back to their forecast templates, even though they're locked, and they can actually see those changes all the way down to net income, net cash, that are being impacted by this account change. Okay. So at this point, this is where we're going to stop the webinar. I think we've demonstrated today a little bit of flavor of some of the things that you can create using the IBM Cognos tool set, both using TM1, Cognos BI, and SPSS, and what LPA is kind of put together for the hospitality industry as a starting point. On all the screens that you've seen, everything is completely customizable and can be built to your specifications. So if you are interested in contacting us or having us contact you regarding exploring building something like this for your organization, please let us know using the contact information at the beginning, from the beginning of the presentation, as well as if you have any questions at this point, go ahead and type those into the chat window, and we will begin our question and answering session. If we do run out of time, we will get back to you individually with the answers to your questions. But I thank you for attending the webinar today, and have a great day.